Have you ever stopped to think about what really keeps the food on your plate safe, day in and day out? Well, there's this incredible, kind of invisible system working behind the scenes. It's got a pretty strange name, but it protects all of us from all sorts of hidden dangers. So, what is it? Let's dive in. Okay, I know, it sounds like the start of a really bad joke, right? But the answer is actually a game-changing approach to safety. And it all started with one of the biggest challenges you can imagine: how to feed people in literally the most hostile environment there is, outer space. And that's the connection, a critical, non-negotiable need for safety. Because back here on Earth, the World Health Organization tells us that our modern habits, eating more fresh foods, dining out more often, they actually up our risk of getting sick from food. So yeah, we need a really solid system now more than ever. To really get why this system is so important, we first have to talk about the problem. Food safety isn't just about, remembering to wash your hands. It's about fighting three very specific kinds of dangers that could be lurking in the things we eat. First up, you've got your biological hazards. These are the microbes we're always hearing about, things like pathogenic bacteria or their spores that can cause a really nasty case of food poisoning. And get this, in the right conditions, like a warm kitchen, some of these bacteria can double their population every 20 minutes. Yikes. Then there are physical hazards. This is when actual foreign objects somehow end up in your food. We're talking about tiny fragments of metal or plastic from factory machines, or maybe even something natural, like a bone in a fish fillet where it absolutely shouldn't be. And finally, we have chemical hazards. This kind of contamination happens when potentially dangerous chemicals manage to sneak into the food supply. Think about things like cleaning fluids that weren't rinsed away properly, or even pesticides from farming. So, with all these potential risks, how on earth do you build a system that can stop them? Well, it turns out the answer wasn't on Earth at all. It came from looking up to the stars. This timeline tells a pretty amazing story. It all kicked off back in the 1960s. NASA got together with Pillsbury and the US Army because, let's face it, you absolutely cannot have an astronaut getting sick in space. The system they came up with was so good that by 1971, the FDA was using its principles for canned foods right here on Earth. And from there, it just took off, eventually becoming a legal requirement in places like the EU. And that system is called HACCP. It stands for Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. Basically, it's a proactive system for managing food safety. The whole idea is to prevent problems from ever happening in the first place, instead of just reacting to them after the fact. So, how does it actually work? Well, HACCP is built on 7 core principles. Think of them as a logical, step-by-step playbook that guides every food producer through a continuous cycle of safety. So the process starts with analyzing every possible hazard. Then you pinpoint the most crucial spots to control those hazards. You set super strict limits, you watch them like a hawk, and you have a clear plan to step in if anything goes wrong. Then you put controls in place to make sure the plan is working, and you document everything. It's a complete 360-degree approach. Now, the absolute heart of this system are the CCPs, or Critical Control Points. And a CCP isn't just any old step. It is a make-or-break moment. It could be the exact cooking temperature that kills bacteria, or the X-ray scan that spots a tiny piece of metal. It's that one specific point where control is absolutely essential to safety. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually look like in practice, with the food we eat every single day? This shows you just how flexible the system is. For something like mushrooms, a major risk could be natural toxins, so the control point there is making sure they come from a safe, regulated supplier. But for cooked meat, the big worry is bacteria from processing. So in that case, the critical control point is all about temperature, either cooling it down fast or keeping it hot enough. This table gives us some more really great concrete examples. For fish, there's a risk of parasites, right? The prevention is to either freeze it or cook it thoroughly. Easy. For canned food, the critical control is the can itself. Is it damaged? And for cured meats, preventing that dangerous botulinum bacteria comes down to using the exact right amount of sodium nitrate in the curing process. See, every product gets its own unique safety plan. So, the HACCP system manages safety all the way from the farm, through the factory, right to the store. But here's the thing. The chain of responsibility doesn't stop there. It actually extends all the way to you. That's right. As consumers, we have a super important role to play. Just by understanding the food we buy, storing it the right way, and actually reading the labels, we're taking control. That expiration date, those cooking instructions, think of them as the final critical control points in the entire food chain, and they are in your hands. So the next time you're walking through the grocery store, just remember, you're not just a shopper. You're the final inspector in a food safety system that literally started in outer space. Now that you know how it works, what are you going to look for? A dented can? A package that seems a little off? From the farm to your fork, keeping our food safe? Well, it's a mission we're all on together.